This short video is titled The Harmony of Prices, and it's about where prices come from in competitive markets. I'm going to use the title The Harmony of Prices because I'm going to argue that prices come from a very harmonious system in society. I want you to consider a thought experiment that Sir Isaac Newton once did. And in this experiment, he's going to explain why the moon can stay in a perfect orbit around the Earth, neither falling to the Earth, neither shooting out in space. And I'm going to show you that it's a decent metaphor for how markets work, meaning there are separate forces in markets that come together to produce a certain price level, whether it's corn or gasoline. And whenever price gets away from that equilibrium, market forces are going to come in to bring it right back to its equilibrium, just like market forces keep the moon in orbit around the Earth. The moon doesn't plummet to the Earth, and corn prices don't plummet to zero. To explain the orbit of a planet, Sir Isaac Newton said, suppose we took a big cannon and shot cannonballs out of it. What will happen? Well, if there's not much gunpowder in the cannonballs are going to shoot out, but gravity will pull it back down to the Earth. The cannonballs will not shoot out into space. But the moon doesn't just fall to the Earth like the cannonballs, does it? Similarly, corn prices do not plummet to zero. And so we need a bigger picture to understand both the moon's orbit and corn prices. Newton also argued that the moon does, if we took this cannon and put a lot of gunpowder in and shot it with much force, then the force behind the cannonball is going to outweigh the force of gravity, and it's going to leave the Earth's orbit. But that's not what we see the moon do, is it? The moon stays in orbit. And just like the moon doesn't leave the orbit, corn prices don't rise to infinity. And so there's certain forces in the universe keeping the moon not plummeting, not leaving the Earth, that also keeps prices at a certain level. And these market forces are far more complex than gravity and acceleration in Newton's thought experiment. Newton said if you shot the cannonball at just the right velocity, and it will shoot out. Now the Earth will still try to pull the cannonball down, but as the cannonball is pulled down, the Earth also has a certain curvature, so that the cannonball is really always falling to the Earth, but the Earth is receding from the cannonball such that it stays in orbit. In a corn market or any market, there are a lot of different people involved in affecting corn prices. We have the farmer who goes out and plants the corn. He certainly plays a big part in corn markets because as he produces more corn, corn prices are going to fall. As he produces less corn, corn prices are going to rise. And ultimately, the corn farmer is trying to sell to consumers. And so consumers are also involved in corn prices. This is a very interesting grocery store in China. It's like a roller coaster grocery store where it takes you very slowly through the grocery store. And of course, as you can see, if you want something, you better get it on the first pass or you got to take the whole ride again. Consumers play a large role in affecting corn prices because as people want more corn, they'll bid the price up. As people want less corn, that'll cause prices to have to fall. There's a lot of people in between the farmer and the consumer. There are people who are actively trading corn, processing corn, transporting corn, and they're the people in between farmers and consumers. And all these people, farmer, consumer, the people in between trying to make money, they're all in the same system that is governed by economic forces. And these economic forces are going to result in an market equilibrium. And we're going to talk about corn as an example. We're going to have corn produced by farmers, corn desired by consumers. And farmers and consumers have to coordinate with each other through a lot of people, but most of this coordinating is going to be done by market prices, as we're going to see. And that harmony that determines market prices is a harmony determined by people just pursuing their own self-interest in markets. And what we're going to say is the harmony of market prices are such that the corn price is going to be equal to the average cost of corn production. And that's going to be the central concept that tells us how corn prices behave. To give a brief example, we have a consumer in orange and a seller in blue. And this consumer in orange is saying, I see how much you're selling me. I see how much corn you've brought at the price that we've been trading at. But you know what? I want more now. I want you to sell me more. I know the only way you'll sell me more is if I offer you a higher price. So I will pay that higher price for it. And then the seller says, well, that's what I'm here for. That's my business. I will happily sell you more at a higher price. Now that's a change in a market. And from this exchange, price is going to start going up. But what I'm going to argue is price is going to come right back down. Why? Because when that price goes up, other people see that higher price and say, hey, I want in on this. I'd like that higher price. And other people start saying, me too, me too. Don't pay that higher price to him. I'll give you a slightly lower price. And as sellers compete for the consumer's business, the consumer's eventually going to say, okay, if you're all so eager to sell me corn, why should I pay a higher price? And from that competition, price is going to go right back down to where it was. I'm going to capture this and develop something we call a supply and demand curve. I have a graph with the price of corn on the y-axis, like dollars per bushel, and quantity of corn on the x-axis, like number of bushels sold or bought. And this orange line is what we call the demand curve. It signifies how many units of corn consumers will buy. And all the curve says is that when price goes down, consumers will buy more. When price is high, consumers will say buy only 2 million bushels. When price goes down, now they'll buy 4 million bushels. Certainly nothing controversial there. Now I'm going to bring in an average cost of production. And we're going to see in a minute that the average cost of corn production, on average in the U.S. tends to be somewhere around $2.25 per bushel. And that is a price where if we just produce corn on a few acres or just one farm, then that average cost of production, $2.25. Or if we start expanding and start replicating farms, more land under the more combines, more farm workers, more tractors, the cost of production is still going to be about $2.25 per bushel. And what we're going to say is the equilibrium, the price will be determined by the average cost of production, and consumers will simply buy however much they want at that price. And what we're going to do now is show you why the price will end up equaling the average cost of production. Suppose that price is higher than cost. In this case, profits can be made. And when we say profits can be made, what we really mean is people can make more money producing corn than they can in their next best available option. It has to do with opportunity cost, that's discussed elsewhere. Well, when price is higher than average cost, people can make more money, and not surprisingly, people start producing more money. People start producing more corn, and as they start producing more corn, price is going to fall. So whenever price is above the blue line, the average cost of production, price is going to fall. Now suppose price is below the blue line. Price is less than average cost. And so in this case, farmers are losing money. And they still may be taking home money to pay their bills. They're just not making as much money as they could in their next best alternative. Well, if they could be better off doing something else, they're going to do something else. Farmers losing money, so less corn is grown, and so the number of bushels they produce here is going to go from 4 to like 2, and as farmers produce less, price goes up. So what this means is that when price is below the blue line, the average cost of production, price is going to rise. And so we know, we've seen here that whenever price is above the average cost of production, price is going to fall. Whenever price is below the average cost of production, price is going to rise. Therefore, an average price is going to be equal to the average cost of production. And consumers are simply going to buy however much they want to buy at that price. We call that intersection of the blue line and the orange line, the demand curve, the market equilibrium. Now you'll notice that I call the blue line the supply curve because wherever the demand curve intersects it, that's also how much they'll supply. We call this an equilibrium because once we're at this point, consumers want the same amount farmers are producing. Equilibrium, harmony. At this equilibrium, price neither wants to rise, neither does it want to fall. Harmony, equilibrium. And to give you an idea of how you view this in the real world, this is a graph of corn prices, and in red is the inflation adjusted corn price. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, well, it looks to me that on average corn prices are around $2, maybe $2.25. That's what the price tends to be. Well, it must also be the case that that's the average cost of production. So what this means is that if this is the long run supply curve, and if that's the average cost of production, even if prices are way up here in 2011, they're coming down, most likely. And someone determining how big, whether expand their operation, they shouldn't look at that high price and ask whether they should expand, because the price is going to fall. They should look at what the long run average price will be and say, should I expand? Similarly, if we look at the lighter line is inflation adjusted prices for gasoline. And gas, price of gas goes up and down. And this is in 1979 dollars, so the numbers will seem kind of low for today. But in 1979 dollars, average price of gasoline tends to be about 80 cents. And so if we're in 2011 and you're a gasoline processor or refinery, you look at those high prices and you may decide that I want to sell gasoline now, but should I spend billions more dollars in a new factory in response to those high prices? No. You should look at what the long run average price will be and ask, under that price, should I spend billions in a new facility?